Have you ever left someone's home and felt smaller than when you arrived? Not hurt exactly, not angry, just diminished, like a little piece of you stayed behind on their doorstep. You drove home in silence, and somewhere on that quiet road, you asked yourself a question you couldn't quite answer. Why do I feel this way after spending time with someone I love? Maybe it was your son, your daughter, an old friend, a sibling you've known your whole life, and maybe you told yourself it was nothing, that you were being too sensitive, that you should just be grateful they still make time for you. But here is the truth that almost no one says out loud, especially to someone your age. Some people do not visit you. They visit at you. And the words they leave behind, the small phrases that seem harmless in the moment, are often the clearest sign of how little they truly see you. Tonight, we are going to gently name 8 of these phrases, not to make you bitter, but to make you wise. If you felt this ache after a visit, please hear me first. You are not imagining it. You did not survive 70, 80 years of life by being foolish or oversensitive. You survived by paying close attention to weather, to danger, to people's true intentions, even when their words said something else. That instinct in you, the one that whispers, "Something felt off in that room," it is not a weakness of old age. It is wisdom, sharpened by decades of living closely with human beings. So many seniors carry quiet guilt for feeling hurt by people they love, as if love should erase all wounds. But love was never meant to be a blindfold. Even the people we love most can, at times, fail to honor us. And the Buddha himself never taught that we must accept every form of presence, simply because someone shares our blood or our history. He taught something far gentler and far more freeing, that we have the right, even the responsibility, to notice who nourishes our heart and who quietly empties it. This is not about cutting people out of your life in anger. This is about finally trusting yourself enough to notice the difference between being visited and being endured. So let's walk through this together, slowly, the way an old friend would sit beside you at the kitchen table. Let me tell you about a man named Walter, 81 years old, living alone in a quiet house outside Denver. Walter's daughter visited every other Sunday, like clockwork. And every other Sunday, Walter found himself oddly relieved when she finally left. He couldn't explain why. She brought groceries. She asked about his health. On paper, she was a good daughter. But something in her voice, something in the way she spoke to him, left him feeling like a task on her list rather than a person in her life. One Sunday, Walter mentioned, gently, that his knee had been aching for weeks. His daughter sighed and said, "You always have something wrong, Dad. I don't have time to go through the whole list today." Walter said nothing. He simply nodded, the way he always did. But that night, alone, in his quiet kitchen, something in him finally broke open. He realized he had spent years quietly shrinking himself, just to make his pain small enough for other people's patience. He began writing down, almost as therapy, the small phrases that left him feeling unseen after every visit. "You're being dramatic." "I don't have time for this." "That's just old age, Dad. Everyone deals with it." Line by line. A pattern emerged that Walter had never let himself see clearly before. These were not careless slips of the tongue. These were small, repeated signals, and together they told the truth his heart had known all along. He was not being visited with love. He was being visited with obligation. And the most painful part wasn't the visits themselves, it was how long he had quietly accepted them as enough. Walter began to study old Buddhist teachings he had once dismissed as too distant from his daily life. And there, he found language for something he had felt for years but never had words for. The teaching of admirable friendship, the simple truth that not everyone who shares your table shares your well-being. Walter's story is not unique. It is the quiet story of countless people growing older, mistaking presence for respect. In the old teachings, there is a concept called Kalyāṇamittatā, admirable friendship, the company that lifts your spirit rather than quietly draining it. The Buddha was remarkably direct about this. He said that admirable friendship is not just helpful on the spiritual path, it is the whole of the path. In other words, who you allow close to your heart shapes the very texture of your remaining years. There is also a teaching called right speech, words that are true, words that are kind, words that are spoken at the right time for the right reason. Right speech was never meant only for monks in quiet temples. It was meant for every kitchen table, every Sunday visit, every phone call between a parent and a child. When someone repeatedly speaks to you in ways that are careless, dismissive, or quietly cruel, they are not practicing right speech, no matter how much they claim to love you. But here is what so many people never realize. Recognizing this is not about judging others harshly. It is about finally, gently, judging the situation honestly without needing to hate anyone in order to protect yourself. The Buddha taught equanimity, a steady, clear-eyed calm, especially toward those who cause us pain. Equanimity does not mean pretending the pain isn't real. It means observing it clearly, without letting bitterness take root in your heart. So as we go through these 8 phrases tonight, I want you to listen not with anger, but with quiet recognition. Ask yourself gently, has someone said this to me? And how did it feel beneath the words? The first phrase is this: you don't need to know all the details. This sounds practical, efficient, even, but underneath it often lives something else, a quiet decision that your understanding no longer matters. When someone excludes you from decisions about your own life, your own care, your own family, they are not protecting you. They are quietly deciding that your voice has become optional. The Buddha taught that truthful speech includes the sharing of what is relevant and necessary, not the convenient editing of truth to avoid your reaction. If someone consistently keeps you in the dark for your own good, ask yourself who that silence truly protects. The second phrase is, I'm too busy to explain it again. Everyone is busy. That alone is not disrespect. But notice the pattern is this, said with warmth or with a sigh that makes you feel like a burden. Right. Speech is also about timing, knowing when patience is owed, especially to those who once gave us all of theirs. You spent years explaining bedtime stories twice, 3 times, 100 times, without complaint. A person who cannot offer you the same patience is not too busy. They are simply unwilling. The third phrase is, you always make everything about you. This phrase has a particular cruelty to it because it takes your pain and quietly turns it into your character flaw. In Buddhist teaching, this is sometimes called subtle wrong speech, words that are technically not lies, but are used to control rather than to communicate. If sharing your feelings is met with blame instead of listening, the problem was never that you spoke too much. The problem is that someone did not want to hear you at all. The fourth phrase is, that's just how things are now, you'll get used to it. This phrase dismisses not just your feelings, but your entire lived history, the decades of memory, tradition, and meaning you carry. The Buddha taught impermanence, yes, that all things change, including how families gather and how respect is shown. But impermanence was never meant as an excuse to abandon kindness. It was meant to help us hold change with grace, not indifference. There is a profound difference between someone helping you adapt to change and someone using change as a reason to stop trying. The fifth phrase is, you should be grateful someone still visits you at all. Few phrases cut as deep as this one, because it turns basic human respect into a favor you must earn. This is the language of conditional love, love with strings, presence with a price tag. True metta, true loving kindness, was never meant to be transactional. It does not say, be grateful I show up. It simply shows up freely without keeping score. If your gratitude is constantly demanded rather than naturally felt, something in that relationship has quietly become unbalanced. The sixth phrase is, why do you even worry about that? It's not a big deal. This phrase minimizes your inner world, as if your fears and concerns, built from a lifetime of experience, are simply overreactions. But you have lived through wars, recessions, illness, loss, and decades of uncertainty that younger generations have only read about. Your worry is not weakness. It is often wisdom, shaped by everything you have survived. When someone repeatedly tells you your concerns don't matter, they are not calming you. They are quietly silencing you. The seventh phrase is, I don't have time to listen to the whole story. Stories are how we process our lives. For people your age, sharing memory is not idle chatter, it is how meaning gets made. When someone interrupts, rushes, or refuses to let you finish, they are telling you, without saying it directly, that your inner life is an inconvenience. The Buddha placed enormous value on deep, attentive listening, calling it one of the rarest and most generous gifts one person can offer another. If no one in your life seems willing to offer you that gift anymore, it is worth asking honestly who still does. And the eighth phrase, often the quietest and most painful of all, "You're lucky I still come around." This single sentence reveals more than almost any other on this list. It turns presence into leverage. It turns visiting into a transaction where your gratitude is the price of admission. No teaching of the Buddha ever suggested that love should be wielded as a debt to be collected. True presence, true Kalyāṇamittatā, never needs to remind you of its own generosity. It simply offers itself quietly, without keeping a ledger. If someone needs you to feel lucky just to receive basic kindness, that is not love. That is quiet control, dressed in a familiar voice. Now, hearing these 8 phrases, you may already feel a face, a name, a voice rising quietly in your memory. And here is where true healing begins, not in anger toward that person, but in honesty with yourself. The Buddha never taught us to hate those who hurt us. He taught us to see clearly and to choose wisely where we place our remaining time. Your years are not infinite. Your peace of mind is not something to be spent carelessly on those who do not protect it. Choosing not to visit someone, or not to welcome a visit, is not cruelty. It is the same wisdom a gardener uses when pruning a tree, removing what drains the roots, so the rest can grow. This is not revenge. This is not punishment. This is simply, finally, choosing yourself with the same compassion you have given everyone else for decades. You do not need to announce this choice with anger. You do not need an argument or a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes wisdom looks like quietly stepping back and simply no longer making yourself available for words that diminish you. This is compassionate, boundary compassion for them, by not allowing resentment to build in your own heart, and compassion for yourself, by no longer absorbing what was never yours to carry. If they ask why you've grown distant, you do not need to recite a list of grievances. A simple, gentle truth is enough. I am taking better care of my peace these days. Let that sentence be both your shield and your medicine. So how do you apply this gently, starting today? First, the next time someone visits, simply notice, not judge. Just notice how your body feels after they leave. Lighter or heavier? Calmer or smaller? Your body has been keeping score long before your mind caught up. Second, when you hear one of these 8 phrases, pause silently before responding. Let the words land fully, instead of rushing to forgive them too quickly. Third, practice saying one honest sentence aloud this week, even quietly to yourself in the mirror. I deserve to be spoken to with kindness. This may feel strange, even selfish at first, but self-respect always feels strange before it feels like freedom. Fourth, give your time deliberately to those who leave you feeling fuller, not emptier. This is not selfishness. This is wise stewardship of the years you have left. Fifth, when you do choose distance from someone, do it with a quiet blessing, not a quiet grudge. Wish them well from a safe distance. This is the heart of true compassion, caring for someone's well-being without requiring their presence in your daily life. And finally, surround yourself, even in small ways, with people and moments that remind you of your own worth. A phone call with an old friend who truly listens. A quiet morning with no one to please but yourself. These are not consolation prizes. They are medicine. If you recognized even one of these 8 phrases tonight, I want you to know something important. The pain you've felt was never proof that something is wrong with you. It was proof that some part of you, even after all these years, still knows exactly what respect feels like and what its absence feels like too. You did not become difficult, or too sensitive, or too much, simply by growing older. You became someone with decades of wisdom about how human beings are meant to treat one another. Trust that wisdom now. the way you once trusted your instincts to protect your own children. You are allowed to choose peace, even if that peace looks quieter than it once did. You are allowed to love people from a careful distance, if closeness has cost you too much of yourself. And you are allowed, finally, after all these years, to be the one who decides who is welcome in your home and in your heart. May you carry these words gently into your next visit, your next phone call, your next quiet evening alone, not as armor, but as clarity, not as bitterness, but as peace. If tonight's words brought you even a little comfort, know that you are not alone in feeling this. So many people your age are sitting in quiet rooms tonight, finally giving themselves permission to feel what you are feeling. If you'd like more gentle teachings like this one to return to, consider staying with us by subscribing. It genuinely helps these words reach more hearts that need them. We will keep walking this path together, gently, one quiet teaching at a time. Until then, may you be surrounded only by those who truly see you. May you be free from relationships that quietly diminish your spirit. And may you finally rest tonight, knowing that your peace was always worth protecting.